皆様、ご機嫌うるわしゅう。ビヨンドザフレームフェスティバル公式ナビゲーターのバーチャルドール田中優香です。日本初の VR 映画に特化した国際映画祭ビヨンドザフレームフェスティバルは2月12日金曜日から21日日曜日まで10日間にわたって開催中です。オンライン会場で国内外から厳選した VR 映画を配信しているのに加えて、ほぼ毎晩トークイベントを行い、Zoom でのライブ配信と YouTube でのアーカイブ配信をしています。最終日21日日曜日のアワードセレモニーでは、配信作品の中から3作品にアワードが授与されるほか、審査員の園志音さん、大宮エリーさん、福田敦さん、さらにアンバサダーのコムアイさんもご登場。もちろん僕も参加します。映画祭について詳しくはビヨンドザフレームフェスティバルの公式サイトをチェックしてくださいね。またこのライブ配信では日本語と英語の通訳が利用できます。画面右下の通訳ボタンを押して日本語か英語の通訳を選択してください。それではお待たせいたしました。今夜のイベントはエンタメ業界のキーパーソンが VR 映画を語る世界で戦うための戦略とはと題して、WOWOW技術局技術企画部プロデューサーの藤岡弘子さん、講談社 VR ラボ代表取締役エグゼクティブプロデューサーの石丸健二さん、ソニーミュージックエンターテインメントゼネラルマネージャーレーベルゲート執行役員の田中茂樹さん、プロダクション IG プロデューサーGunji Mikioさんがご登壇。モデレーターは株式会社Mogura代表取締役社長Mogura VR ニュース編集長のKubota Shunさんです。Kubotaさん、よろしくお願いします。
はい、皆さんこんばんは。
Hello and good evening, everyone. I'm Kubota and I'm the CEO of Mogura Inc. And so tonight is night 2 of Beyond the Frame Festival. And we're going to be talking about in the industry talk about VR themes. What's the strategy to compete in the world? Key figures in the entertainment industry.
まずは、
Okay, sorry about that. So first, let me briefly introduce myself. So I'm the CEO of Mogura Inc. And maybe some of you would have seen the name Mogura VR News. So I kind of started off the project and assumed the role of editor-in-chief. So Mogura VR News has been covering what's happening in the VR world since 2014. And the genre of VR films really has a lot of potential. And at the same time, there's this situation in Japan where the hype is not so active. Now, you see in international films that you have VR film events, and so this event really focuses on VR films. I'm really excited to be joined by 4 key people from the industry and get them to talk about the films they've been involved with. And I do want to ask them, why did you step into the world of VR films? And all of them are active not just in Japan, but also outside of Japan. So I want to ask them about that too. And hopefully we'll be able to talk about things that are interesting to people really interested in VR films. So let me introduce the 4 speakers for today. As introduced earlier, Ms. Hiroko Fujioka, who is producer at WOWOW Inc. Good evening. I'm Fujioka. Looking forward to talking with you all. Thank you. The second speaker is Mr. Kenji Ishimaru, CEO and executive producer of Kodansha VR Lab Limited. Good evening. I'm the CEO and executive producer at Kodansha VR Lab Limited. Nice to meet you all. Third speaker is Mr. Shigeki Tanaka, General Manager of Sony Music Entertainment Japan Inc. Hi, I'm Tanaka from Sony Music. Good evening. And the fourth speaker is Mr. Mikio Gunji, producer from Production IG. I'm Gunji from Production IG. Looking forward to the talk. So from the world of Japanese entertainment, we have speakers who are from companies involved in the industry and really working on VR films. And I'm really looking forward to hearing what they have to say, and I hope you are too. So I'd like to ask each speaker what they are working on, what kind of VR film projects they have been involved in. I'd like to ask each person to take about 5 minutes each. Fujioka-san, would you like to start off? Yes, thank you for that. I'm Hiroko Fujioka, and if you can show the slide there, thank you. And the next slide, please. So yes, first introducing our company, WOWOW. Maybe many of you know that our company started paid satellite broadcasting for the first time in Japan in 1991. We created channels in 2011 that provide programs on film, sports, music, drama, musical, and stage performances. So I do hope you will visit our website for more information if you're interested. Now, 2021 happens to be the 30th anniversary for our company, and we are starting the WOWOW on-demand service. And because viewers' viewing environments have really drastically changed in recent times, we are allowing subscribers to subscribe directly through the web so that they can enjoy distributed contents even if they don't own a TV. So we do want to be strengthening the contents there. That makes this year a big year of change for WOWOW as well. And I've just written down in text on the bottom right how we're going to really be involved in the work we do. We really do want to open up a new world of entertainment, both on the TV and web. So we want to come up with innovative ideas and use our technology to further evolve. Next slide, please. So what is WOWOW doing in the field of virtual reality? So the very first project that we've done was back in 2015, where we really started off with some content related to broadcasting. We realized that VR is completely different from how you will be creating films in 2D. And so we felt there was a limitation trying to do this on broadcasting programs. So we started thinking of creating some really innovative original content, which leads to the projects we are doing now. So back then in Japan, there were very few VR works with a real story to tell. So we wanted to create something with a story. Basically, most of the films were distributed in formats that were only viewable on smartphones. At first, it's very fresh and new, but what was supposed to be immersive is now no longer immersive. And so that kind of feels strange, and it could work negatively if you start realizing that. And the immersive feature is really what makes VR great. And so in order to create that world, we really need the user to be involved in the world of visuals. And so that's why we wanted to make it really interactive. And so that's an important theme for us. Next page, please. And so that led to Beat. So we've been working together with Cinema Leap. It was directed by Keisuke Ito. And the interactive element that we used here is haptics. And so this is an element that allows users to really influence what goes on in the film. So we've had the privilege of being invited to the 77th Venice International Film Festival for virtual reality section. And also we won the VR Category Excellence Awards at the Advanced Imaging Society's Lumiere Japan Awards. We're very happy with that. So I'd like to just show you the trailer. Thank you. So this is the kind of image that you get as you saw in the teaser. Now, how did we use the haptics technology? Let me share what we did. So if you look at the upper right of this page, you can see this man holding a box-like structure, which is a handheld device. It's attached to a stethoscope, and the user can actually place the stethoscope over his or her chest, and then the person's heartbeat will be communicated to the device, and then that heartbeat can be expressed as a pulse or a heartbeat in the film as well. And so the pulses and pulse meters can also be read into the program, and that can impact the beating and shining, flashing heart rhythm. So you can feel your own pulse, you can see the film and really feel your own beat together with what goes in the film.
っていうところで物語自体の原動力にユーザーがなるというようなコンセプトで作っていて、その一番最初に言ったその作品にとってその世界にとって体験者がいなくてはならない存在みたいなところを表現できる作品になったかなというふうに思っているのがこちらのビートの作品になります。で、次お願いします。2つ目のプロジェクトで、これまだ進行形なプロジェクトなんですけれども、ヘラというプロジェクトもやっています。でこちらアイトラッキングを使った自然分岐型のストーリーなんですけれども、後ほど出てくるとは思うんですが、広角機動隊の VR 作られた東監督と一緒に作られている作品です。こちらまだ試作品の状態で、実は昨年1月に作ってサウスバイで資金調達をと思いながらサウスバイがなくなってしまって今に至るというようなところなんですが、ちょっと今これからどうして進めていこうかなというようなコンテンツというかプロジェクトになっています。で次のところを進んでください。で今回そのアイトラッキングを使った自然分岐型っていうところに取り組んでるんですけれども、この自然分岐っていうところにすごく力を入れていて、というのも去年のベネチアの映画祭のノミネート作品とかも、分岐型 A は B でどっち選びますかっていうものあったんですけど、どうしても一回映像が止まってどちらかを選んで進んでいくってなると、作品の映像体験っていうのがそがれてしまうと、なんか没入はやっぱりできないなと思っていて、今回この例に出している画像にもあるように、青い服の女性を見ていたら勝手に青い服の女性に話しかけに行くし、白い服の女性を見ていたらそちらに話しかけに行くというような、ユーザーはただただ映像を好きなところを見ているだけで気がついたらそれぞれのストーリーに変わっていく。
And so naturally what we want the story to branch out. And that is what we are trying to create. I hope I still have time. Is it okay? So yes, if you can wrap up quickly. Well, thank you very much. So if you look up YouTube with WOWOW and Hera, I believe you will be able to see this. This is made by director Higashi, and this is still a prototype. You won't be able to see everything, but I believe you can see what the texture looks like. So thank you very much. I'm very sorry I took a long time to talk about our projects. Well, thank you very much, Fujioka-san. Moving on to Ishimaru-san, please. I hope you see the slide. Yes, it's okay. So I'm from Kodansha VR Lab, and I am Ishimaru. I'd like to talk a little bit about myself and my company. So this is just a little bit about myself. Initially, I was in the Polygon Pictures for 12 years as a producer. And in the latter half of that career, from Kodansha, we were approached for making a VR film, and which was called Hop Step Sing, and that led me to come to Kodansha VR Lab and serve as CEO. And this is where Polygon Pictures and Kodansha both invested and created this Kodansha VR Lab. I believe people know about Kodansha. Akira, as well as The Ghost in the Shell, comes from Kodansha. It was published, and Polygon Picture is a CG creator company. So we wanted to bring out synergies from the two companies. So what is it that we do? Well, very simply, TV, films, not those flat screen films, but we wanted to create something new and we wanted to explore. That's why we have lab in the name. And as for business, we have 4 businesses right now. I'm not saying that we are able to do everything, but first of all, high-end VR content production and Hop Step Sing. We have some idol singer groups and R&D, and also we have commissioned projects. As for contents, this is Last Dance, which was made last year. What's unique is there are, well, 3 projects. We had 3 prototypes, and the board actually narrowed it down to 1, and we created the actual product. So it was difficult to come up with 3 ideas, but because it's VR, we wanted to make sure that it really leveraged the technology of VR, and we wanted to look at creating original stories and producing good content. And we have aimed to get some awards at film festivals. I'd like to show you a little bit about what Last Dance looks like. Were you able to hear the sound? I don't think we heard the sound. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me try again. So let me replay the short film.
How many times have I watched this tiny world implode?
今デスクトップの画面が
I think you're sharing the desktop screen. We are not seeing the film. I hope it works this time.
Only I feel you surround me. I spread my wings, soar up to the sky.
And how many times have I watched over her, dancing alone at the end of the world?
はい、失礼しました。で、
So Hopstep Sing is a new entertainment and also a treasure box of new technology which comes out from VR idols. So how can these idols go along and go through different media? So we have VR music videos, we have a VR chat room, and we also have this comic. And last year we had a live event. So VR idols can go across national borders. We have some experiments of multimedia, and we also wanted to look at the potential of VR live events. So I'd like to give you a taste of what it's like.
A
little bit of advertisement, and we will have a live event on the 28th, so I hope you can join us. And now the R&D part is looking at the interesting technology of VR and connecting that with content and funding. We will fund the creation, and so it's really an experimental lab, and we are looking for interesting content, interesting themes, together with Kodansha, as well as Polygon Pictures. And that's all from myself. Thank you very much. Thank you. Moving on to Tanaka-san, please. Yes, I'd like to share my screen now. I hope you hear me. And do you see the screen? Yes, it's okay. So I'm Tanaka from Sony Music. So first, Sony Music, I think many people know, but maybe you don't know, so I'd like to explain a little bit. Initially, I was working for Sony, but now I've moved on to Sony Music.
And so you can see on the upper right something that looks like a slash. That's our logo for Sony Music Overseas. And the logo in the middle is the Sony Music logo that we use in Japan. We have different logos. And the logos are different because what we do is different. Sony Music Overseas is completely separate from Sony Music Japan. We don't even have a parent company, child company relationship. So the two entities started off different from different origins. Because Sony Music Japan is a joint venture between CBS and Sony, and so it's started off from CBS. And then overseas, Sony acquired CBS records and then changed the name. At the same time, CBS Sony also changed its name to Sony Music. So Sony Music in Japan and overseas are kind of related, but not really. Now, I've talked about that background because in Sony Music, the non-music factors are really big now. Inside of Sony Music, we have three groups. We have the artist and music group. The pictures you can see on the lower right of the screen, we get these singers and Yonetsu Keishi and King Nu, Yoasobi, and Urada. Those are the singers in the music labels. This is our traditional type of music. And then we have Nikaido-san and Tsuya Tao. We also manage these people as well. And so that's the responsibility of the artists and music. And then in the lower left, you can see the Demon Slayer and the other films that are popular now. And then we have games like Twisted Round with Disney. And then there's the Snoopy Museum in Machida, and we also do licensed business for peanuts. So that's taken care of by our visual and characteristics, or visual and characters department. Then on the upper right, you see pictures from our solution business where we have these fan clubs and I see businesses. So we have these 3 business units at Sony Music. So now why VR? Well, virtual reality, we have a lot of IP that we can use besides music. That's one of the characteristics of Sony Music. And so in order to go into the new media of virtual reality, we thought that we had a lot of strength and environment where we could take on new challenges, and that's why we got into VR. So it's been a while since I started getting into VR. We worked with Rose Star, and we've also done some location-based projects. In the past 3 years, though, we've been working on Project Lindbergh, which is a cross-Sony Group project. So I want to briefly talk about this project. Sony Music and PlayStation 2, and 4 business divisions in Sony, the Design Center, and the Semiconductor, and the Communications, Mobile Communications, and then the Imaging Products and Solutions and Creative Center. So a total of 7 entities in Sony are involved in Project Lindbergh. So what kind of contents do we create? It's our 3rd year. So we've created more than 30 content. So today I want to talk about storytelling because this is a film festival. This is not a storytelling only project, but we do use computer graphics and also real film, live action. And also in December in Sony Square, we've done a 4K distribution of film, 3 films at the same time, PSVR. I think it's the first time in the world that we did this. And then on the upper left, we have the Sold Out Online IP, which we've done in the event. Below that, we tied up with a really well-known voice actor, creating some content. And on the lower left, we have 7/72. Sorry, 27/7, where we have voice actors and also VR Cheki and VR events. And then on the lower right, we tied up with Ikimono Gakari, working on a CD using 3D data. And this is something that we did last year using volumetric camera work, and we distributed this live. And I think for the Sony Group, it was the first time we did this in the world. And as a result, we were able to get Survive Set the Profit, which is a 4-person fan VR experience. This won the Lumiere Award 2019 Japan Grand Prize. And we also got a special award for Hikaru Utada's VR. And then with Mizuki Tomaden, we also got a grand prize in the Lumiere Awards 2020. And then lower right, that's the GOT7 Love Loop VR, where we got a special award in Korea. So we've done live distributions and CG interactions, fan engagement. And we're really taking on the challenge of doing storytelling using the cutting-edge technology. So if you win a Grand Prix in the Lumiere Awards, well, last year, Survive Set the Prophet got the VR, and we were nominated for viewing in Hollywood. And it's a red carpet event in Hollywood. And so best use of VR in musical experience, we got that award. And Frozen 2 also got the award. And Ford VSR and Avengers. They got nominated for different awards, but it was the same year. So we're not just working on storytelling. We are creating a lot of different content for VR and doing a lot of projects here. So that's all I had prepared for the introduction. Thank you. Thank you, Tanaka-san. So may I also ask Gunji-san to introduce himself? Gunji-san, hi. Hello, can you hear me? We can hear you. We cannot see you, but we can hear you. Now we can see you. We lost you again. Okay, sorry about that. My camera's not feeling well today. Okay, can you see me now? We can see you now. And no longer. Do you think I can share my screen? Yes, please share the screen. So once again, I'm Mikio Gunji from Production IG. We are an animated film production company. Why are we getting into VR? Well, I hope to be able to introduce some of the works that we've done in the past. First of all, starting with my own self-introduction. I actually switched jobs, and I used to be in the finance industry. I was more of a finance-oriented person. But then I became involved in the space battleship Yamato 2199 in 2013. I was producer for that animated film. I was more of the business side producer rather than the real creative side producer.
And right now, The Legend of the Galactic Heroes, I am working on a new series. We created one in 2018, and actually, we have been doing the recording for the second series before coming to this meeting. And why was I involved in VR? Well, actually, I experienced Oculus Rift, and I thought that there was potential for using VR in animation, and that's why I started working on it. And toward the bottom, you see some photographs from Shanghai. And Fujioka-san also talked about this, but Mr. Higashi, together with him, the director, we went around Shanghai, and that's when we took these photographs. And so this is now a little bit about the company. We are headquartered in Mitaka in Tokyo, and we have Ghost in the Shell, Psychopath, and other products. And we have in our group WIT Studio, which is the company that made Attack on Titan. And this is what I talked about a little while ago, the first VR animation that we made at our company. This is the space battleship Yamato. This was a promotion for that film. initially, we tried to do this for test marketing 100%. We went through all the approvals within the company. And you see toward the bottom, mob characters. Actually, because we didn't have any money, my voice was used for the mob character. And this one is also a promotion. This is called Gargantia on the Verdure's planet. So on a robot called Chamber from Earth, or on Earth, you jump around many places. And I'm hoping that you can see the actual film a little bit. I don't think the images are moving. Sorry, so I'll skip this one. Now, we were considering what we should work on next, and we thought it should be the Ghost in the Shell because we are IG. So that's when I met Mr. Higashi, the director, and also Mr. Asai, the creative director. And this was just by coincidence, but Ishikawa went to, who is the representative of our company, went to Yubari Film Festival and met Mr. Asai there. And he said that he wanted to make a VR version of The Ghost in the Shell. And that's where everything started. And that's why we went into this endeavor. And this was just the very first step. So we decided that we will fund everything. We went through the approval in our company. It was quite tough. We were grilled in the boardroom. However, in the end, we exceeded the allocated budget. And so I had to say that fire me or continue with the production. And actually, the production went on, and it turned out to be a wonderful film. And it was taken to the Venice International Film Festival and other film festivals. Now, next with the company called Kadokawa, we now made a VR version of the Brave Witches, which is kind of an interactive film. After that, and Kodansha has been part of this, but we have Hexaride, which is a motion VR system placed in Odaiba in Tokyo, and we wanted to make a VR for that. And so that was a project. So you take a ride on something like this, and you have these head-mounted displays as you take a ride. And the Attack on Titan, and also with the Ghost in the Shell was involved in this one. And once again, the director, Mr. Higashi, was involved, and this turned out to be a great success. And the newest one, once again, this is for Hexaride, but this is the newest version for the Attack on Titan. And so this you can view on Hexaride. So the VR film or the VR images, and you have the prologue and the epilogue. And this will be turned into a 2D version and for distribution. So VR, it's very short, but we have a prologue and an epilogue that will accompany that. It will be re-edited for a 2D version. So the 2D part, the camera work will differ from the VR, and the direction will also differ. So if you see the whole thing, you will be able to further understand what the film was all about, and to understand the story as well. And I also helped out in directing the film, and therefore this was a very interesting endeavor. And if you go to Odaiba, you will be able to see it on Hexaride. I do hope that people take the chance to see this. So my company or our company group is involved in creating these VR films. So that's all from myself. Thank you very much. So thank you very much, Gunji-san. So now, already we have had all four speakers present themselves and introduce themselves. So if you can please turn on your camera so that we can see your faces. We'd now like to move on into the discussion part. Now, as I also look at VR, there were many things that I have actually viewed myself, and it was really interesting to hear. But first, a question. So you have all been working in different contents field, and then now you have switched to creating VR. But what is the appeal for you in working in VR? For example, Gunji-san, you talked about your experience with Oculus Rift, but if there are any stories that you can share with us about how you got involved in VR. Well, I'm very sorry, this screen here is not really working. So since I am involved in Ghost in the Shell, please understand that this is an optic camouflage of sorts. Now, well, there was this jet coaster thing that I was involved in, and it was an immersive experience, and I was hoping that an immersive entertainment. And maybe you will be using the same hardware, but if you change the software, you can experience different things. I thought that that's the future, and we are making animation, but the CG asset for animation, once you create it, usually you'd never use it again. But why not utilize it? Maybe that is an interesting way to utilize the animation assets that we have. So that was the first step for us. What about other people? Well, then, if I may answer the question, as I said earlier, from Kodansha, the Hop Step Sing, the idle contents, was the first VR that I've made. But I believe you all know, but the 360-degree image, if you see that, you can really go into the contents. That's the experience that you have. And of course, storytelling, there are good things and bad things about that, but the feedback that you get, it's really immense. You can go to places where it's impossible to go, and the size could be big or small. You can become big or small, or you can even time travel in that environment. So there are really great merits or advantages, and if we can utilize that, you may be able to experience things that you can't experience by just watching a film. You can really feel something that is completely new. It's a new type of entertainment. And that was the possibility or potential that I felt. And that's why, in our case, especially, we tried to think about what is the optimal storytelling. So the optimal story is what we are trying to create. And that's why I'm involved in VR.
Thank you for that. Fujioka-san, Tanaka-san, how about yourselves? Okay, let me share how I got into it. Well, we really started off working distributing these music live events. And it was really interesting that you can see the scene from angles that you normally do not see. And then I started looking at various opportunities. And the one thing that really got me into VR is Alimet. And then small girl living on a city up in the cloud. I saw that miniature version of VR. You can actually go to the backside. You can have new experiences. And maybe some of you have yet to see this. But then there's this big ship that's flying in the air. And if you put your head in, you can see the story inside. And so it was a visual experience that I'd never experienced before. And I realized that storytelling isn't just two-dimensional, not just flowing one way. And so virtual reality has so many different opportunities, and I wanted to take the challenge. That's how I got into VR. Okay, thank you for that. Tanaka-san, how about you? Well, it's completely the same for me. I was really going after new media. And I was actually working on Sony Pictures Cover City, the wall where you go through this tightrope walking wall without any safety lines or safety belts. And so there's this experiential version. And I tried it. And you put this head mount display on your head. And then you tightrope walk on the wall. It was so scary, I couldn't even walk. And compared to just looking at the square screen, it's really immersive. You really get into that world. And so I really felt this was such an interesting media. Okay, thank you for that. So you all said that you've been drawn by the possibilities that VR has. You've also experienced it yourself and then got interested. So let's talk about the possibilities. What do you think will happen in future? At this point in time, we're gradually seen to see a lot of VR films and getting appreciated in international film festivals also. The content is also getting attention. So what happens next? What do you think will happen next? So would anyone like to put their hand up and talk first? Okay, let me go first. Hey, Ishimaru-san, please go ahead. Well, just very vaguely, I think in the process of creation, we're really starting to see new possibilities, a lot of different possibilities. And so we're following our instincts in what we create. But contents that are really specialized in VR, we're starting to see those kinds of content. So it's no longer content in just a square screen. And once we start to see content that really goes beyond the square screen, I think that rich content could create a market in which people are willing to buy expensive headsets in order to experience that. Maybe it can be in arcades. And to touch upon some of the themes of today, if some companies start becoming willing to invest in VR, then I think there are huge possibilities. And you could have a place where you have high-end experiences. If there's any publisher that's doing that kind of thing, that helps. If not, it's quite tough. So we do hope to be creating content that helps. Now, for me, I think new media creates new content. If you look at music history, that's what's happened. In the past, you had to go to a concert hall to be able to enjoy music. Or if there's just one singer on the stage, the singer's voice sometimes doesn't get to all of the audience. But now, with the microphone, one person's voice can be heard by a whole lot of people. And now you have Netflix. And unlike normal drama and TV dramas, you cannot have violence or sex. But if you're doing pay-per-view in a drama style, not film, I think that's a new genre. And for music, Yonetsu-san doesn't even create introductions. So music is changing too. And that's really influenced by YouTube. because people's attention spans are getting shorter. So you create content in a different way. So you don't even have the introductory tunes and music. So technology changes content. So once the technology starts changing, it's going to be so interesting, and that's the possibility for VR. So are you seeing any signs of change? Well, when I look at the quality, for Hikaru Utada, we did a 4K shooting, but the devices were not good enough. The device display resolutions were not good enough. But the resolution is getting much better now. Now we're getting 8K films, Philosophy Dance, which we shot the other day. The images are really becoming fine and really becoming closer to what we feel in the real world. Technology is catching up. And I think it was the Ikimono Gakare's 4D view. That kind of technology combined with 5G and cloud rendering. And once you combine these technologies, you could get more high-end, interesting media mixes. You could even see those things on your smartphone. Because the technology improvement is going to put less load on the handheld terminals. So advances in technology is something we really need to keep an eye on when we create content. It's tough for us to keep up, but that's where the possibility is. Yes, for a content creator, once the format is clearly defined, it's easier. But now the question is, how high can you go? So when you're doing this for a business, you have to spend R&D expenses. It doesn't pay. But I think once we get to a high level, then and the platform is there, then we will really see an explosive growth. So Fujioka-san, you mentioned the interaction device that can sense your heartbeat, and then you talked about the eye tracking technology also. Technology that's not even out in the commercial devices available on the market right now. So finding technology and then combining that with various content, how do you do that? So as everyone has said, we do not have a fixed format for how to create VR. So how do you have the user experience the world of VR? Technology is supposed to be a means to tell the story. And there are a lot of challenges like how the market will develop. But what's most important for our work is to create content that everyone would love to meet. I know I'm not talking strategy here, but it's really important to come up with quality content. So as I said in the beginning, how do we allow the viewers to really feel the immersive experience? What can we make as an interactive experience? Because you see, if you look at 2D, you know that the 2D experience is different from the actual experience that you have. But in VR, if there's an experience that you can only experience with this VR world and everyone wants that experience, if you get there, then people who don't want the device right now might become intrigued. So to come up with a work that really will intrigue those people so that they want to experience it, and that's the key for us, I think.
Thank you very much. What about Mr. Gunji? Which way is VR film going to? I'm very sorry that my camera is still unwell, but I agree to what Fujioka-san said. I think we need to create things that people would want to see, even if they needed to buy a new device. And I believe that will create a breakthrough. And right now, we have to struggle through getting approval through our companies and also raising funds. And you are going through trial and error in directing and producing the films. But all the creators involved in VR seem to be having fun because they are involved in something very new. And so maybe we will have something that everybody wants to see, and from there the market will grow explosively. Yes, you are nodding.
はい、勝手に絶対 VR が可能性ある
So
理由って、
the reason why I think VR has potential is because the creators, as we speak to them, I think they are seeing something 100 times bigger than what we are seeing. And so that's something that they can't express in 2D, but they can express it in a 360-degree environment. And there are people who really want to do it. So the very talented people, if they have a market where there is a possibility for them to do what they want to do, I think it will be realized. And that is my hope, but I'm just hoping that VR will become one big market, and I do believe that. I showed you some photographs from Shanghai when I made a visit there. There is a symbolic ball like building in Shanghai, and there is a VR coaster inside. I thought that it was going to be a raggedy jet coaster. However, it was really great. I believe throughout the building, my scream was resonating. It was because of the device itself was not that great. However, the images and also the storyline was really great. And so if you have a good device, a good story, and a good images all linked together, I believe that will lead to bringing about real excitement. So that, I believe, is where we are right now in our trial and error period toward going into the market. But as Fujioka-san said, somebody has to make a breakthrough piece. And maybe everybody is making effort to create that. And what are the hurdles that you see right now that is preventing that from happening at this point in time? Well, rather than saying hurdles, when I talked about my company, I said that we had two types, the idol live events and the story events, story pieces. But the reason why we have these singer idols, we want people to come to our events so that they can have a VR experience, so that they can understand how fun that is. And that's why we have that. And when we did have the live event, the audience were really thrilled, and they gave us a lot of feedback saying that they have fun. So it is a VR space, but we can tell the audience, please come back again. And so this groove that you feel by going together to a certain place, and it has to be something attractive where people want to come to, and that feeling, the groovy feeling, may be one trigger point. And the international part, which is the theme of the day, we need to have an international content that everybody around the world can share and have fun. And if we get something like that, it's going to explode. And I think in that sense, Sony Music's music is a common language for everybody around the world, and and there's great potential there. What do you think, Tanaka-san? Well, yes, as you say, and as Fujioka-san said, we need to have very interesting content, be it music or also storytelling. Beyond storytelling, we went into live music. Goldman Sachs, I believe, gave a forecast about 3 years ago. They said that maybe it's a live events that will be great in VR. Of course, storytelling is great, but it costs money. But if you have some live events, and if you need to have interesting things in order to make a breakthrough. And yes, I'm trying to use music wherever I can to get a success. If I may, I have a request to Tanaka-san. So we don't have the market yet because we don't have a lot of people with the necessary devices. So, and VR is really big in game because we have Quest 2 and we have a lot of hit softwares. And once we have that, it's going to spread widely. And these Demon Slayers, if you have contents like that, they will spread together with the devices. You have the software, so you need the devices. And so companies with the strong IPs, they can help us spread the devices that are necessary to view VR. Well, at Sony, it's VR, and the hardware, we can contribute to making the hardware smaller and lighter. And as I listen to you, Fujioka-san, compared to overseas markets, what I am aware of is, well, for example, let's say we make a game. It's in Japan, it starts with the smartphones, but overseas, especially in the United States, the first target is PlayStation. And then it goes to desktop, and then thirdly, it's the smartphones. So the market is a bit different. So with VR, if we want to really spread it, we have to aim for higher levels. We can't aim for the cell phones. So PlayStation is not that popular here in Japan, but it is popular abroad because many people play games while they're commuting. Of course, if you are in the United States, you might be driving to work, meaning that you can't play on their cell phone as you drive. So here in Japan, game, it means smartphones, and that's where the game industry is, and therefore it's very difficult for the VR games to spread. So the CGs, if you want to use the assets that you already have, well, yes, I was really surprised that you have been looking at things in that direction, from that direction. And we have an animation company, but in Japan, it's still a 2D culture because everything comes from comic books. And I do understand that you started with 3D, which were turned into 2D. But 3D assets are very difficult to use. But in the United States, Pixar has the 3D films, and Disney also started with 2D. It didn't work well. Now they are going into 3D, and now Star Wars was big in this area. So full CG 3D, even if you don't have a 360-degree data, if you have 180 degrees, then you can combine these things and you can really make a VR. And we have invested in this area, and we have invested in Disney, and we have a Void, which is a LBE. And so we have people who, we know people who have the assets for this. And in Japan, good films could be made in 2D or 3D, but for secondary use, it seems that more assets are being held overseas rather than in Japan.
So I completely agree with you. And actually, the material that's for animations is a real asset that's not currently being utilized well, because CG, once you create that, the contracts are not put properly in place in order to utilize that computer graphics content further. It's lying about not being utilized. So when we create CG for animated films, you really need to be thinking about various things on how it could be utilized after that. No one's thinking about that. We need to do proper contracts to get the rights in order to be able to utilize that content in future. And once all that's in place, it should be much easier to utilize the content. So the rights negotiations are quite important, and I'm working on that so that we can start to utilize more of that great content. So I'm sure the team finds it easier when you have people who notice those things and work on those things actively. Well, actually, for the Ghost in the Shell, virtual reality diver, and Ghost Chaser, we try to make it easier to sell overseas, and that's why the screenplay was written by a writer in-house, but the music is out. So when we're selling the content overseas, I would be taking care of the rights. And in our industry, we always have to make sure that we have the adequate copyrights for music. But in the VR world, it's not like in music where we have proper copyrights. So it does cost a lot initially, but we did make sure we have the rights. So we're actually starting to run out of time, so I'd like to go on to the second topic. Tanaka-san, you mentioned the difference between VR films in Japan and overseas, the content difference. And I'd like to ask our guest speakers what you think. Well, Tanaka-san already made his point. Would anyone else like to talk about the difference in VR content in Japan and overseas? So right now, we're really aiming to get our works into film festivals like Venice or SIGGRAPH. So we look at a lot of films that have won awards in these film festivals, but there's a lot of variety. And there are other works that really have one thing that's excellent, but not doing so much of a good work in the other elements. They have films that have used a lot of budget in order to create a high quality work. Some of them are crazy, but they're really interesting. But actually, trying to create such kinds of works in Japan is really a challenge. I feel that recently. And the biggest part is in the screenplay and also the plans for the project. There are very few people who are capable of understanding how it works in the VR world. There are hardly anyone who's capable of doing that. So everyone's doing it on a trial and error basis, so that makes sense. But we do need to really pull in a lot of different people from different industries and get those people to be evangelists and talking about how great VR is and getting more people to like it. And so we're trying to work on that as well. I know I probably didn't answer the question directly. Well, you did talk about the creation part. Fujioka-san, Gunji-san, what do you think? So let me go first. So the reason we wanted to go into film festivals is that in Japan, there's hardly any market for it. So as an employee, in the feedback I give to my company, I said that we really cannot make use of our brand power in Japan. So we need to go overseas. We need to brand ourselves as a company that can create new content. And so internally, that's what I've been trying to communicate in our company. And as all the other speakers have said, overseas, there is still a market for distributing VR content, even if the market is still small, even if it doesn't make big money. Gradually, if you can get even a little bit of profit, instead of just saying we made a work but it didn't make money, if you can show that it can make a profit, even a small profit, then it shows your company that there's a future for this kind of thing. And so that's why we want to really go for the film festivals. And that's kind of our goal in our recent works. And how is it when you look at the other works in these film festivals? Well, this year we were nominated and we got to the film festival. But before that, it was in 2019 when we went to see a film festival for research purposes. There were some films that used tons of money, others did not use so much budget. But the way that the films were made, if you look at the current traditional films like Hollywood, they use up a lot of money. But because VR films are so new, you can actually create really good films with just ideas or innovative ways of making the film. So the entry to barrier is not that high yet in VR. Well, you could say there's an entry barrier in that technologically it's quite difficult to make, but it's not an established industry, so it's easier for many people to get into. Now, I talked about Hera, and we did a lot of meetings with finance markets. But overseas, there seem to be a lot of national grants and subsidies that are made available to creators. And then you would be at an advantage there. But in Japan, there's not much budget made available. So I think we might start to see people who want to partner with people overseas in order to create their work. And once that starts happening, I think we might be able to get more funding in order to create more things. So the funding is different in Japan compared to overseas. Okay, that's another aspect. Gunji-san, what about you? What do you think of the situation overseas and in Japan? Well, Ishimaru-san talked about how overseas films use a lot of budget. I completely agree with that. I think it also has to do with the difference in corporate culture. And barriers to making an advanced investment is quite high in Japan. So if you just tried once, then the company starts asking, did you make a profit or not? Well, I've actually been involved in corporate planning. I also create the company's business plans myself. And you know, there are projects that start off making losses, but then after a few years, then you actually get the return on investment, to talk in financial terms. Now, in the Western world, they understand how it works, and they are willing to take risks and bet on a possibility. That's where Japan is lagging behind. Right now, the market is in a transitionary period. Well, if you create VR right now, you would be able to gain know-how, and you will be able to get insights into what works and what is interesting. And I think that's important. Gunji-san, I have a question for you. We're actually struggling how we can accumulate know-how. What do you do to accumulate know-how? Actually, I'd like to ask everyone. Well, actually, the know-how tends to belong to the individual currently. And, you know, the people who are deeply involved sort of are starting to share that knowledge.
海外の方が
So it seems that overseas they have more solutions that are available as a package
プラグインとかで
or are available as plugins.
スタッフとかってそういうの
And when I talk to our staff from overseas, they pick those packages up and then they can incorporate that.
情報共有み
But that kind of information sharing and know-how sharing, if we can get more of that, I think we can create prototypes more speedily and we will be able to see what works and what doesn't much faster than we currently are able to. But at the moment, I'm really struggling to think, how can we get that know-how out of this small team and then expand that to a wider audience? Maybe Kodansha VR Lab
伝授していくのかとか
needs to think of how we can communicate the know-how to our group companies.
やりながら動いていくもの
So we're kind of hitting the ground running.
を思ってますね。でも
And so
ずっとこう業界も広がっていかないと
and we know that we need to expand the knowledge, otherwise the whole industry is not going to grow.
Well, the CG creators, actually, they have a network and they do share information, but that isn't spreading into the business side or the management side. The management people say, we don't know about that. That's happening in our company. So the CTO is very important. But right now, it doesn't seem that information is spreading. So sometimes I have to go to the CTO himself and ask what's happening, and that's creating a dilemma.
蓄積っていうなんか
So the accumulation of knowledge,
この部分って田中さんとか藤岡さんなんか思ったことある
what about you, Tanaka-san or Fujioka-san? Well, I totally agree. When I make a request, I go to people who already understand VR. People who work on the rectangular screen. Some people are interested, but some people have this rejection against VR because they're not working on a screen. In VR, what they are doing is sometimes totally denied. So you have to really pick up a lot of knowledge, and also it's not just the creator. You need to have a director who understands VR. To direct the piece. And if that knowledge spreads, we will have a lot of different options to choose from.
僕は進撃のVR の最新作作ってる時に
When I was working on the Attack on Titan, everybody was involved in thinking about the direction. And I also drew some of my ideas. Well, it's wonderful that you worked in the financial field and still you can draw these pictures. Well, I just tried to express what should happen in the film. Like saying that it should look like the final of the platoon. And actually what I said was actually picked up in the idea. Yes, I actually experienced it. I understand what you're saying, and it's really impressive that it came from your ideas.
はい、ありがとうございます。
Well, thank you very much. And we are nearing the end, but there are some questions coming in, and it's quite close to the question I wanted to pick up. Japanese film companies and animation companies, and also individual creators. There are not many people who are involved in VR. How can we increase the number of people who want to pick up the challenge of creating VR? How can we increase talents who will work in this area?
そういったチャレンジする人たちが戦っていくにはどうしたら
So that the Japanese creators can compete with creators overseas. I'd like to go around the table and ask your opinion on this question.
じゃあ、
Well then, if I can start.
はい、私の私のというかまだ3年ぐらいしか
Well,
会社と
it's only been 3 years since the start of my company, but
一応方針というか
my policy or strategy is to have as many people as possible get involved. So I'm trying not to use the same director twice. I want, so sometimes people have no experience in VR, so I have to explain to them what they need to consider if they're making a VR film. But I'm trying to bring in a lot of people. For Last Dance, Akiko Kitamura is very famous abroad. She's a choreographer, and she experienced VR and she thought that it was really interesting, and she said yes, she wanted to work with us on Last Dance. So her dance, that's her territory, and the stage, dance on stage, and the affinity with VR, I believe she was able to feel that. So maybe we won't need our bodies anymore, is what she said in the end. And so we have to transform things so that we can bring in a lot of things into VR. And so first, I think it's not just the final piece, but you have to show people what is being created in VR. So because we work with Kodansha, Kodansha is talking to many people about the possibility. And just doing that sometimes links us together with not just young people, but also with older people. And they can spread the word in their own areas. And I think we should start from there. And I am feeling that it's actually working. Thank you very much for that. So I believe you've answered that question in how to increase the number of people to take up the challenge. Anybody else? Yes, I'd like to answer. So increasing people to take up the challenge. Somebody talked about the creators having fun, but with Attack on Titan, Gugenka in Niigata was our partner in this, and they said that it was really interesting. They said it was a very good team, so they want to do it again with this team. And when I created VR with Yamato, the company only allowed me 4.5 million yen. So that's why I had to do the dubbing in the end. But so starting with a small challenge and having people accept how fun it is. So even if we fail, to spread the fun is one piece. So don't try to take away points from what you're trying to create. I think you have to add on to what you are doing to look at the merits. Tanaka-san, please. Well, just as the others said, in creation, you have this network and then you need the showcase. So you have this showcase, and that's why you want to take up the challenge. For example, the Venice International Film Festival, you understand that you can take your film there, that's why you're creating it. So if you have a VR film festival, and if you can showcase your film there, then people will take up the challenge. My customers or the people I know, there are many people who have never touched VR yet, so they've never experienced it. But you need to have these showcases so that they can go and see it and start talking about it. Right now, it's working just in a closed circle, like in the amusement park or in the game arcades. But you need to have these showcases, and so that people can show what they've created. just like we had a lot of YouTubers cropping up, we need to have a lot of people taking up the challenge so that they can showcase their piece in festivals.
藤岡さんはいかがですか？
So Fujioka-san, from I think I'm a bit different from the others because I'm just one employee of a company, and I gave a lot of reasons to the company so that I can achieve my goal. But looking back at what I've done, because I'm interested, I went to many VR events, and I've been talking to people that I wanted to do VR, and then I was introduced to Machiba-san, who appeared in the opening session for this event. And people who want to start VR don't know how to start. So when you meet people in events like this, you may feel and understand what you can do together with these people, and then you can take that explanation to the company. So once you get this connection, you will be able to make a presentation to the company. So if you are interested, if you have creators you want to work with, maybe you should first make these personal connections. And many people are willing to explain about VR. So first you have to start to go to these events to meet people, and then that would probably start rolling.
はい、ありがとうございます。
Okay, thank you.
もともとの世界で日本の VR
So,
っていう形
in order for Japanese VR films to compete in the world, that was kind of the theme that we wanted to discuss.
これがその
And it seems that we're still at this trial and error stage, and it really depends how much trial and error we can do. And Guji-san said we should be adding points rather than taking points off.
その積み重ねがまだ
So
今から
really accumulating that experience is something we can start right away.
5年6年ぐらい前にその VR
I mean, looking back at 5 years, 6 years when I started getting involved in VR, I was talking to some creators,
よく聞かれるんですけれども
and many people asked us, when is VR going to become a big thing? No one can tell when it's going to become a big thing, but there's going to be a time in the future where there's going to be a big break. Everyone's really believing that and working to make new content and new technology. So I really do hope that in a few years' time, I'll be able to get together with you all again to talk with all big smiles on our faces.
ローカル方が増えていけると
And we really hope that we get more people interested in VR. It would be great if we could see more VR film festival opportunities.
する人が日本からも増えてい
And so if we start to see more people in Japan getting into VR, we will be able to show a greater presence, and maybe that would attract more funding as well. That I kind of felt that through all of the discussions we had.
半までが持ち時間ということなので
So we're expected to end at 8:30 p.m. So
以上にしたいと思います。
with that, I'd like to end off
お話ができた
our discussion today. Really thank you all with the great speakers. Thank you.
イベントご出演者の皆さん、ありがとうございました。さて、ここからは、ビヨンドザフレームフェスティバル公式ナビゲーターの届きゆかから、改めて映画祭についてお知らせです。日本初の VR 映画に特化した国際映画祭、ビヨンドザフレームフェスティバルは、2月12日金曜日から21日日曜日まで10日間にわたって開催中です。3作品にアワードが授与される本映画祭の審査員は映画監督の園志音さん、作家画家の大宮エリーさん、ブランドコンサルタントで株式会社スピーディ社長の福田敦さんという豪華なメンバー、さらにアンバサダーにはコムアイさんが就任。僕、映画祭公式ナビゲーターの届きゆかもバーチャルの世界で生きる者として VR の様々な表現の発展を応援していきますので、皆様どうぞよろしくお願いいたします。もしよろしければ本日のイベントのご感想や VR 映画を体験いただいたご感想を SNS で投稿いただけたらとっても嬉しいです。その際はハッシュタグ BTFF2021 ハッシュタグ VR 映画でお願いします。また、今日のアーカイブ映像は後日映画祭公式 YouTube チャンネルで3ヶ月間配信されますので、そちらもご覧ください。映画祭について詳しく知りたい方は、ビヨンドザフレームフェスティバル公式サイトをご覧ください。それでは皆様ご視聴ありがとうございました。バイバーイ。